to the.
Don't bury the lead.
I'm not going to bury the lead. And I verified this. I finally settled on a piece from Spiked, which is a great site in the UK for great writing and great reporting. And I hesitate to do this, but I feel I owe it to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do hesitate to do this because I can guarantee you it will be coming here. There's a county in England called Oxfordshire.
Sure.
Oxfordshire.
It's between London and Birmingham.
Birmingham, yes.
Birmingham.
Yes.
A couple 100,000 people.
Okay.
It's in other words, it's north and west of London. And their city council is ruled by the Labour and Green Party. The Labour Party, I believe, in England is the Liberal Party.
Okay.
And most people will know Oxford as Britain's oldest seat of learning.
Like that was the first, not like, but that was the first school.
But according to the Sunday Times, it is better known to its residents for its gridlock traffic. In past decades, town planners might have looked at this problem of high levels of congestion and drawn up plans for new and wider roads. But today's planners are gripped by an anti-car ideology.
So this would be about the same size as Ramsey County.
Yeah.
Roughly.
Their focus is less on helping people get around than in reducing our use of cars by any means necessary. To this end, Oxfordshire County Council, which is run by Labour, the Liberal Democrats, and the Green Party, wants to divide the city of Oxford into 6 15-minute districts.
6 15-minute districts.
In these districts, it is said, most household essentials will be accessible by a quarter of an hour walk or bicycle ride, and residents will have no need for a car.
Oh, my God.
On the surface, these 15-minute neighborhoods might sound pleasant and convenient, but there is a coercive edge. The council plans to cut car use and traffic congestion by placing strict rules on car journeys. Under the new proposals, if any of Oxford's 150,000 residents drives outside of their designated district more than 100 days a year, he or she could be fined.
There's going to be fines and suspensions?
Do not leave your allotted zone, at least most of the time. That is the policy. Or it could soon be after Oxfordshire County Council decides on the matter on 29 November. So I'm reading this a little late from Spiked, but they've already decided this. Although there is public consultation that is still ongoing, the council is likely to overrule any objections from residents. Because what do we have to say about anything? Labor Councillor Duncan Enright, cabinet member for travel and development, has already declared that the policy is going to happen definitely.
Wow.
Run by Labor administration, Oxford City Council takes a similar line. Its local plan 2040 places a strong emphasis upon the concept of the 15-minute city. Foremost in its vision and strategy is not residents, but the environment. Oxford, we learn, is a human scale city. It has the potential to enable residents to live in a healthy and sustainable way, for example, because of the possibility of traveling by active modes. I'm hearing all the words I hear from Our Streets, Minneapolis. Such as by bike and on foot, which is why it is such a sustainable location for development, including jobs and housing. The environment will be central to everything we do. Clearly, Oxford City Council sees the 15-minute district concept as the key to the city's flourishing, not just lowering emissions of CO2 and particulates. So where did this 15-minute city concept come from? The answer is from an unholy mix of the UK Labour Party, the American plutocracy, the United Nations, and French academia.
Okay. Wow.
The concept of the 15-minute city was born with C40, chaired today by London Mayor Sadiq Khan. C40 calls itself a network of mayors of nearly 100 world-leading cities collaborating to deliver the urgent action needed now to confront the climate crisis. There is no crisis. Central to the birth of the project was another former London mayor, Ken Livingstone. Livingstone was often explicit in his anti-car ideology. In 1999, shortly before coming mayor, Livingstone famously remarked, "I hate cars. If I ever get power again, I'd ban the lot of them."
Wow.
As mayor in 2005, Livingstone staged the first C20 climate change summit. Within a year, his initiative was backed by former U.S. President Bill Clinton's charitable foundation.
Ah,
In 2007, billionaire New York City Mayor Mike Bloomberg hosted the second summit. By this point, the group had been renamed C40 as it featured 36 mayors from major global cities. The C40 mayors would later be invited to the UN's COP21 climate conference in Paris in 2015. The mayors basked in the green limelight, staking their claim as crucial voices in shaping and advocating a strong summit agreement.
I think that was a paid gig. They got all expenses paid to get there.
Mm-hmm. Significantly, it was at COP21 that Carlos Moreno, a professor at the Sorbonne in Paris, presented the idea of the 15-minute city. For Moreno, the concept was simple. Why does a noisy and polluted street need to be a noisy and polluted street? Moreno even sounds humanistic when he proclaims that cities must adapt to humans, not the other way around. Yet there is little pro-human about the concept. And the fact that it took the COVID lockdowns to give the idea a boost
That's exactly what I was going to say.
is telling in this regard.
Mm-hmm.
The big moment for the 15-minute city came in 2020 when the Socialist Party candidate for mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, won re-election. Much of her campaign was based around the 15-minute concept. As Politico noted earlier this year, Hidalgo's pitch was to turn the French capital into a city of proximity where children walk to school and residents know their local baker. Struck a chord at a time when COVID-19 lockdowns meant people were suddenly spending a lot of time in their own neighborhoods. Enthusiasm for the idea sparked similar campaigns in Dublin, Barcelona, Milan, and Lisbon. Excuse me.
Perfect health.
Just last month, C40 announced partnership with the UN Habitat, Carlos Moreno, and the Danish property investor NREP, which manages 7 million square meters of real estate across Denmark, Finland, Sweden, Norway, and Poland. The project aims to fund a new green and thriving neighborhoods program, deliver proof of concept for 15-minute city policies, and empower cities around the globe to implement ambitious net zero and people-centered neighborhoods. Advocates like to present 15-minute cities as people-centered, but we should be skeptical of these claims given that they only seem to come from high-placed politicians, wealthy institutions, and out-of-touch academics. And it was only after lockdowns that the previously unthinkable idea of confining people to their local areas for the greater good was able to gain currency.
Mm-hmm.
As usual, it is ordinary people who will suffer the costs of the 15-minute city, particularly urban car owners and families who regularly travel across town to visit relatives or friends or go to work. And we should not forget the needs of older citizens, those with disabilities, and children, as well as the women who so often look after them. The many practical problems of the 15-minute city are easy to see. Advocates seem to have forgotten that simply bad weather can make a car indispensable. And as Oxford City Council concedes, while most of the city has very good accessibility to a center, there are clearly a few areas outside of this 15-minute walk. This means that residents will have to content themselves with local centers, though these have a much smaller range of facilities and are often slightly less connected by public transport. People-centered? Hardly. So you're working on a shaft for an engine, and it needs a new bearing. And in order to get the bearing pounded onto the shaft, you'd have to travel over to, I'd have to travel out to Blaine.
See you.
Well, there's a couple of reasons why that would not happen. There wouldn't be any shaft for me to work on. or any bearings available
Right.
because those are affectations of
White privilege.
freedom.
Well, Oxfordshire, that's where Clarkson has a farm.
Well,
That's where he lives.
then he better get out.
And so I didn't hear you mention anything about lorries or tractors
Right.
or people that actually work in London. How are they going to commute
Be-
on a daily basis?
Because meatheads like this can't link. What's going to happen here?
What is posed as a revival of Britain's green and pleasant land is, in fact, a coercive drive to put motorists on a leash. Those homes with a car will have to count how many times they use it to cross town. There will be permits, penalties, and almost certainly more ubiquitous surveillance. All of this just so that Oxford officialdom, which has declared a climate emergency, can claim to be achieving the council's net zero carbon Oxford vision by 2040.
Won't they go broke? I mean, this sounds like it's financially not feasible.
Everyone will go broke except the elite who have enough to withstand this. Not for the first time or indeed the last, the net zero agenda seems to have taken far too much inspiration from those illiberal days of COVID lockdown. This was written by James Woodhusen, a visiting professor of forecasting innovation at London's South Bank University.
And Joe, this is over and above the new highway code that went into effect earlier this year, where virtually everybody has to yield to pedestrians and bicycles, right?
Right.
So this is over and above that.
Yeah, but more importantly, there's shops that need supplies. There's restaurants that need chicken and beef.
That's why
and,
I brought up lorries.
which is a truck, Rook.
yeah, I thought it was the name of a gal
Right.
he knew in London.
That was my old work wife.
What's
Her name
what's
was Lori.
taking place? This
Oh, yeah, yours
this
too.
this madness that's taking place is a refudiating of where we are today,
How can
and
this
that we
not?
apparently got here wrong, and that we're smarter than you, and we're going to tell you how it should be.
How can this not be met with violent protests?
Well,
How come they're not burning down the government?
Even more
centers?
so, what I was going to say is, isn't this just going to result in a lot of these people saying, well, we're moving. We're not living here.
But is there any way to escape this in all of England?
Well, or is there any way to escape this in any part of Western civilization?
Yeah, that's the better question.
Can you understand now why it was important to examine just who is the power behind something called Our
100,
Streets Minneapolis?
100%. Unfortunately, we're the only ones making noise on this.
That's crazy. It's so unthinkable.
How unthinkable is it?
It blows your mind to think that they're processing this, that it's gotten this far.
Mhm.
But you're right, Such, and you mentioned it. This is the final goal of our streets.
Right. You would think in this country it will be met with protests. And when I say in this country, I'm afraid it is coming here inevitably.